Srimati Ramanjayama. Human intelligence and diligence are always preoccupied in only one thing: growth, aggressive growth, everlasting growth, and never-ending growth is a major pursuit of all human intelligence as well as diligence operations. In this, we see competition only in three areas. In social service or in developmental activities, we don't see this. One is in knowledge. Yes, I want to be more knowledgeable than yesterday, than my previous decade, than that person. Like that, there is always a growing motive as well as a growing mission in their lives, education or knowledge acquisition. Second is wealth acquisition. In richness, they want to be billionaires, trillionaires, zillionaires, like that is going on increasing. Only few alphabets are changing. In million, billion, zillions, it appears that only one or two alphabets are changed or replaced. But it sucks the economic prosperity and promising future of thousands of people or even millions of people that we should know. Somebody asked, what is the difference between or the gap between billions and billions and billions and trillions and trillions and trillions? It will be nothing but the added leaching of 1,000 more millions of people whose promising future is trampled. This is the difference. So in wealth also there is a race that everybody should prosper, continuously prosper, carelessly prosper, without bothering about others and other environmental, even their own situation and generations. Their own future, trans-generation future, environmental future, national future, whole social future, trans-social future, planetary future, all these things are totally blind. So this is there. And third thing is power or authority. Yes, I want to rule. Either by smart invasion, secret invasion, silent invasion, innumerable methods are there. That need not be any military. And cultural invasion is there. Then by trade technologies and trade pacts, you can just captivate people. Cultural infiltration, you can just captivate people and make them by yourself. By means of lobbying, technology transfer, there are innumerable methods of ruling others, apart from mere direct colonization which happened in the previous century. That is not essential. You can sit over a place and without any expenditure, inexpensively you can rule any part of the kingdom by means of threat, by means of trade, by means of technology, innumerable ways of that we will explain later. This is what it is happening in the world, and it is very much natural. Everybody is interested in that. And how they are graded here. In knowledge, in wealth and power acquisition, they are graded. Great, greater and greatest. According to our tradition, we say, those who excel others, they are great. In knowledge, I am excelling others, so I am great. In wealth, I am excelling others, I am great. In power, I am excelling others, I am great. Second is greater. I am not only excelling, but controlling others. So you are greater. Apart from that, the culmination, the beauty in our traditional wisdom is, the culmination is not control at all. Contribution or compassion. One who distributes his acquisition and also sees that there is a collective prosperity or growth sustainably for the future, he is considered to be the greatest. Whereas in modern pursuit, the full stop is kept in power or controlling ability. If I excel others and if I am capable of controlling everybody, I am the greatest person. So here in the culmination, what is our traditional culmination? It culminates not in controlling ability. Control is a muscular force. It can be even fiendish in nature. Converting that fiendish into a fraternal or an angelical force, we need a system of munificence or compassion. So we call great people are those who excel. We call it as ECD model. Excel, E, C, control, D, distribute. So these excelling, controlling and distributing parameters are very much essential for the global growth. You should excel, you should control, but it should end in distribution or collective care and compassion, whatever you call it as. Every sector you are seeing this. At least you are seeing excellence, competition and control you are seeing in sectors of knowledge. In all scientific systems, not only you see knowledge control, but also some sort of heterogeneity control systems are there. Political lobby in economy, economic and corporate lobby in politics, political lobby in science, scientific lobby in economics. Like that, everybody is interlinked in lobbying, not development systems. In lobbying or intrusion, everybody is interlinked. You are seeing such a mess of system or medley of the chaos we are seeing in every system. What we want is, no doubt, knowledge, right? Knowledge prosper, wealth prosper and power grow. Similarly, that should be a growth system of social participation also. If there is some sort of gradation, upgradation, promotion and progress in all systems like knowledge, wealth and authority, in social participation also there should be parallelly some growth, without which all these three things will be nothing but magnified or monstrous forms of catastrophe. That's what we are just seeing the manifestations. What we want is social participation. Somebody asked me what is the impact of social participation and what are the ill effects of non-participation. That is, if you don't participate, if you are devoid of social participation, you will get into two entanglements. You will not get the merits of your co-associates. You will have to pay penalty for the mistakes of your co-associates. If you don't participate in the society, somebody will do the mistake and you have to share the penalty. Somebody will have a meritorious contribution or footprint here, you cannot share. Unless you participate in the society, the penalty will not be removed and the merits cannot be included. So what we need is a social participation to see that we escape from the mistakes of others as well as we entangle ourselves into the meritorious embrace of great people in the society. So social participation is obligatory, not optional, entertainment based. It is based on prudent enlightenment of material vision, not even spiritual vision. Spiritual vision is too far. Even in material vision, social participation is essential and it has two grades. One is upliftment and second is development. There are two types of people, those who are below normal level and those who are in normal level. So minus A is the status of people, those who are marginalized, those who don't have access towards the basic amenities, development amenities, progress amenities and serious participatory amenities for the society in social reconstruction and construction. Those who are below that normalcy level, bringing them back to the level of normalcy is known as upliftment. And those who are uplifted from that underdevelopment status, for them to provide more opportunities and capacitation measures for that development as well as consequential development of the surroundings, that is known as development. Making minus A into A is known as upliftment and making A as A plus or A plus plus is known as development. So it should happen simultaneously in a parallel and organized manner and it is not happening. A plus plus is becoming A plus 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 and A minus is becoming A minus minus. So it is happening in extreme routes, in diverse directions or adverse directions which should be rescheduled by global thinkers and real transformers and activists of this society. That is very much essential. For this basic foundation should be given for the students. Point number one, somebody asked me a question. Sir, everybody is doing their duty and serving the society. Social service is implanted in everything. For example, banks, they are doing some services. Education institutions, they are doing some services. So social service or contribution is a part of every department. Why you are exclusively forming social service wing as social service is a part of everything? Agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, forestry, all types of researches, every point of research and every subject of study and every aspect of trade is somehow contributing something to society. Then why you are forming exclusive wings? Then we told that even though those sectors are available, they are not fully functional. They are not fully fraternal. They are not easily accessible. As we are seeing a deficit in the existing systems, it requires an exclusive task force. It requires a special exclusive task force so that we can benefit the society. We have 4 duties, major duties. One is to remind them their duties. If we are having an exclusive wing for social service, what we should do? Our first duty is to remind. Sir, you are having an establishment, educational establishment. You have to bring or incubate leaders for the society, social invigilators and animators for the society. So we have to remind them. They may be knowing, we have to remind them. They may be well reminded many times, but we have to reiterate till it is conspicuously observed in their action and impact in the society. Reiteration. Third thing is, if reiteration itself is committed several times and still it is not being properly done, we have to take a participatory responsibility. For example, you should be in joint venture. There are a lot of things, teacher-students association, students-parents association, teacher-parents association, management or tripartite committee, like that innumerable committees are there. You have to take a participatory responsibility where you have to start regulating them. Fourth, even if regulatory mechanisms are insufficient or inefficient, we have to strive with all painstaking efforts that it is restored. So, reminder responsibility, reiteration responsibility, regulatory responsibility and restoration responsibility are there with exclusive sectors. So, what we should do, we are known as exclusive social service sectors, ESSS or ES cube. We belong to that sector. we are having three responsibilities, sectorial responsibility. If anything is to be developed, only that department is having primary responsibility and accountability, that is that. If they are not functioning, society should ask. If society is in oblivion or lethargy, and if these people are exploiting the lethargy and social oblivion for their nourishment and enrichment, at that time we should mediate between both of them so that it should function well. So point number one is, we are exclusive social service agencies or sectors, whereby we have to see that every sector and the concerned society and connected society gets that particular vigilance and awareness and act together for a common well-being. Till we live, we have to breathe with the sense of supporting this mediation to both of this society, embracing them on both hands. That is our duty. The first thing. And second thing, lot of people are doing social service. Everything emanates in the society by itself. Then why we are creating a lot of societies? Our traditional knowledge gives very wonderful explanation for that. There are three things. One, that which casually emerges. For example, in agriculture, in no field you need to plant the weeds. Weeds emerge by themselves. There is no need for any exercise, train, pain and scientific consultancy to grow weeds, because they come by themselves. So casually self-centric people and those who are exploiting, those people are just casual weeds of the society. They emerge by themselves. They don't require any special manufacturing technicalities. And second thing, those who are vigilant, those who are very much meticulous and self-caring and developing, such type of people, they require exclusive focus and fostering. They should be fostered and focused with special care. But those who are going to change the society, those who are going to architect an ideal society, they should be specially created with a strenuous manufacturing ability and action. They cannot just emerge by themselves. So that's what we used to say, triple P. Profit-oriented society casually emerges. Philanthropy-oriented society that emerges with our observation, care, fostering and framings. Whereas a peacemaking society of creating a great change, that comes only by a finance. Just as a finance of 10 months that makes a pregnant woman to have a safer and successful delivery, with most efforts taken for inner parenting, internal parenting, super parenting and general parenting, that creates not only a safe delivery but also a successful delivery. To create a leader, to create a great and prosperous nation, it requires a decade and century finance, which is made by a group of committed personalities. Without which it will not come. So what we understand is, we need the time factor, the time, team, tempo and temperament that is essential for creating these two major members. Philanthropy and peace-based members of the society should be specially created with Herculean efforts, with utmost faith, which I have already told in my previous lecture, that we need faith as a foundation. So that is very much essential. And third point I want to emphasize here, that unless you made, we have made innumerable things, a lot of announcements are there, awareness campaigns are being conducted by government and private agencies. Unless you make something obligatory, people are afraid of only two things. One is losing a favor or getting something unwanted. So this fear and favor instinct of the people is stimulated by contributive and retributive justices of all law systems. You know that. Here also we have to create an obligatory participation scheme that we have to bring. There are a lot of things. For example, you have tax system. The tax that we receive from all corporate agencies, from all earning members, that goes only for the maintenance and reconstruction of the nation. But that is not sufficient. Because I told in a seminar, because I am also a lecturer in tax consultation and tax reform. So I gave my preface or preamble in a tax reform seminar by saying that tax is expanded as tax avoidance expert. TAX means tax avoidance expert. Tax is always levied on people, those who learn how to avoid it, or to minimize it, or how to get it reimbursed from other channels even though marginally contributed. So this type of tax contribution for the society for social reconstruction is not sufficient. It's not proper. And second thing is responsibility incentive. Now the government, see, that's what we used to say, whenever somebody is a sick person, he is unable to walk, he can carry a stick. That's not a scepter of a king, but it shows the person's disability rather than the ability of a king to hold a scepter. It shows his disability. So incentives, punishments and bonus, all these various exercises provided by government shows the disability of the government to reform and transform the nation. But unavoidably it is very much essential in the primary stage. In the primary stage it is very much essential to introduce lot of responsibility incentives. Now you know corporate social responsibility. All these companies are given some CSR projects and some incentives are provided. I delivered a lecture in the same Confederation of Indian Industries. The topic was corporate social irresponsibilities. They violate human rights, they violate environmental sustenance and environmental rights, they are against the labor welfare laws, and they create lot of havoc in the area. For example, you know about General Electronics. It has contributed lot of things as corporate social responsibility, but at least 100 times than what it has contributed, it has decontributed by means of putting its wastage in the river Thames. So corporate social irresponsibility. When you consider both of them, corporate social responsibility is clouded by CSI, corporate social irresponsibility. And all IT companies are giving employment to the neighborhood villages. It appears to be corporate social responsibility, but that is also irresponsibility. You are removing the plurality of employment opportunities. It is known as conversion. Just as Christian missionaries convert everybody into the same religion, it is IT conversion. There are opportunities for agriculture, animal husbandry, there are possibilities for the person to go into electronic engineering, they can go to production, instrumentation, safety mechanics, electronics and telecommunication, marine, aeronautics, innumerable divisions are there. You are converting everybody to IT industry by attractive offers. Isn't it a type of conversion? This is what it is happening in this society, where it is called as, branded as, misbranded as something known as corporate social responsibility. Stipulations are laid. So unless you saw that CSR particular rate, unless you evince this, you will not be given these type of aid and subsidies. All these stipulations are laid. See, you know, whenever a person's conscience is not prepared for an act, his knowledge will be always engaged in finding traps to escape, exits to escape. When a person is wholeheartedly having that particular zeal and commitment to do something, he will always trace for an entry to go into the responsibility. So the human intelligence is invested in inventing all possible ways for evasion of any law. Before you could smell a law, they could smell the release of the escape trap. Such much great is the social irresponsibility. So unless a spiritual awakening could be created by a spiritual person, a spiritual performer, all these things are just balancers or controller mechanisms of the society, not solution mechanism. We say three things: satisfaction, solace and solution. I am satisfied, I am getting solace, I am solved. For example, if somebody is crying because of any loan problem, debt problem, somebody is consoling, don't worry, it is very much common in the society. So by that consolation, the person is satisfied. On that consolation offer, all the other money lenders or the borrowers, they may not have a settlement deed by seeing the consolation of the person. So this thing is only for the satisfaction of the society and interim social solace, ISS. It is not made for the real time or the sustainable solution for the society. And fourth thing is, we delivered a lecture why we should have social responsibility, a lecture for students. What are the instincts that can be cultivated, or if already available, that which can be manifested by somebody's lecture or positive intrusion, by means of which the students can engage in social service. Students or any social members can engage in social service. Great people told, number one is gratitude, second is penalty, third thing is share, fourth is reimbursement, that is very much essential, reimbursement, and fifth thing is surrender. I have to surrender. All these instincts are laid out in the Shastras. Gratitude is, I am born in this world, I am nurtured by the society, I am growing well or I have grown well. It is my gratitude or sense of gratitude that I should do something for this society in an extended offer, as an extended offer. Gratitude. Second is penalty. Those who have overexploited the society, if they have any sense of transformation or repenting or rectification or spiritual or ethical rehabilitation, they can think of a penalty to be offered to the society. Share. I am growing with the society, it is a mutual growth. I have to offer a share to the society. Reimbursement. I have taken from the society and I have earned and developed myself, I have to reimburse the same. Surrender. Out of my ethical pricking, what I have taken from the society, I am not only reimbursing, more than that, I have surrendered it. All these things are having some instinctive barriers which could be understood only by minute psychological understandings. So these type of various things are there, by cultivating which people can be motivated. These senses should be cultivated by teachers. or super teachers. Now we know that there are computers and supercomputers. If supercomputing can be done by supercomputers, super teaching, that is teaching the soul of a person, can be done by super teachers. Such people can make this miracle or metamorphosis or psychomorphosis or ontomorphosis to happen. Within a fraction of a second, they can make it happen. It is our duty to see that such people can be incubated. First, that's what I told you, good governance. Good citizens only can deservingly ask as well as manufacture good governance. Like that, good teachers can only produce good students, and we have to produce only the recipients. Before producing the recipients, we should understand that we should produce only the persons who can manufacture those recipients. The providers and bestowers, they should be provided. Everywhere that we are thinking of providing only opportunities to manufacture the recipients, like students as well as the government. We are not thinking about we are not more thinking about the teachers and good citizens. At least a small team of good citizens and good teachers. It is very much essential. And finally, obligatory service. We know that at the time of war, in crucial times of civil revolutions as well as war times, there was compulsory recruitment for militaries in most of the countries. Now also it is happening, unethically also it is happening. They used to say coercive recruitment, crude recruitment and cruel recruitment. Recruiting small children, just as it is happening in Africa, terrorist regions, it is known as cruel recruitment. Crude recruitment, I want people, you just come, whether you know to fight or not. You come as a soldier, or come as a supporter, or even as a serviceman or servant. If not possible, come as a shield, human shield. You come, we want you. That is crude selection. You are capable, you are masculine, you are muscular, you are robust, come here. I don't want your consent. It is known as coercive recruitment of these people. This is what it is happening. The same thing, we have to include people for social resettlement. Obligatory, whenever you make this system, for example, there are three methods. One is incentive method, I already told. All the students, they should be given one social welfare project. It should be a micro project, based on which they should be getting some marks. They should be getting some recognition or merits which can add value to their education as well as their service in future. So that should be a gradually developing social sense as a part of the curriculum that should be provided. See, just as they have mentioned, if you mention about the whole educational department, it may not be palatable for them. But with people, with like-minded people, with a limited group of schools or faculties who are accessible to us, we can start. We can think of doing these possibilities immediately. As an outcome of these conferences, it will be the best if we can sign an MOU with at least 1 or 2 schools before we leave. Before we leave this country, it shall be the best reward for us to initiate implementation through inculcation in at least 1 or 2 educational bodies which are known to us, which are accessible and amenable to us. Those who have proper understanding or common understanding, that we should immediately do. So like military recruitment, social service also needs proper team to be recruited with incentive, with their own development, mutual development scheme. Not only incentive, mutual development scheme. You develop your education as well as the social empowerment program. It is mutual development. The third thing is compulsion. If it does not happen, there is no problem, and it is not wrong to impose it compulsorily, because gradually it will have an evolution inside the person. That's what we used to say in philosophy. If it is ethical, if it is beneficial, there is nothing wrong in compulsion, because the compulsion without the person's consent will create an acquaintance to the spirit inside, so that in second or third grade of his evolution, he will start relishing it and realizing it. So his instantaneous repulsion is not the signal of his heart or soul. So in spirituality, we believe that if it is ethical and visibly beneficial without any trace of dispute, certainly we can impose the same, because in the evolutionary process they will start accepting, they will start relishing, and they will start accomplishing it. It is only initial repulsion, so we can do that. So this basic ideology is very much essential. And how it happens in the society. See, these people, they have been demanding a lot of responses from the society, from the listener society, from the proximate and distant and similar society of the student community, parents community, teacher community. It is an address only to community through these people, not only to these limited people. They have addressed how they will respond. The tradition says that there are few ways for responding. There should be some parameters for that. One is inherence. Naturally, those people are born for that purpose. Second is inheritance. They should have inherited the same from their parents, from their ancestral lineage. The third thing is inculcation. They must have taught the same by the schools. Imbibition. They must have observed the same thing from their environments, from the other environmental, living and loving environmental sources. And finally, instillation. They should have been influenced by a mega spirit, a greater soul acting upon them. So these are all the possible ways. So what is our duty? It is known as mutual balancer. What is it known as? Mutual balancer. If there is inherence problem, inheritance will add value to that. If there is any inheritance problem, inculcation will add. So in this pentastructural assembly, the 5-member group, if something is deficient, if something is absent, it is the duty of other available groups to see that they are well compensated and well cultivated. So what do we belong to and where do we stand? We stand in the installation groups. So wherever you see a person, latently everybody is inherently potential as well as positive in nature. We believe in it. Universal positivism we believe. So everybody is having the latent will to do something good. So try to get it manifested. Number one. If inheritance, parental or ancestral inheritance is not there, you become a super parent and see that it is compensated by your inheritance ability or inheritability that comes from your side, by your teaching ability. If teachers have forgotten to teach the same, you teach on their behalf. If they are not capability of imbibing from the surroundings is not there, provide those opportunities. So we are installation authorities where we compensate as well as capacitate the sources these people derived from inheritance, inculcation and imbibition sources. So that is our duty, and it is a brief note what we have to do. If somebody asks a question, this will be the answer. We are installation authorities and we balance and nourish that. Somebody asked me, what is your duty, what are you going to provide? Then I attractively told, we are providing ENS, ethical nutrition supplement. Whenever there is a physical nutrition defect in the food grains or in the regular food consumption system, they go for supplementary food, isn't it so? The same thing, if there is any ethical nutrition, any empowerment nutrition that is deficient in the inherited as well as inculcation systems, as well as the environmental conditions, it is our duty to provide the ethical nutrition supplement. That is our immediate need that we should do. And school, you know that the purpose of school, according to our traditional system of learning, mathematics, didactics and pedagogy, is entirely different from what we are thinking. It is just an infinitesimal trace or spark of what we are seeing now in the society. What is knowledge culture? Culture, according to our Shastra, they say, Ishta Siddhi Anishta Varana. We should see that not even a single essential is omitted. All essentials should be packed inside the person. To see that not even the smallest trace of an alienistic tinsel is introduced inside. So to remove everything unwanted and to pack everything that is essential for his survival, prosperity and social amity, that is known as culture. So knowledge culture is to see that he is becoming the embodiment of essentiality without the trace of anything that is unessential or that is malicious or pernicious to the society and social well-being. This type of purification or hyper-sanctification is known as knowledge culture. I have given a lecture on breeding. The topic was human breeding. Already human beings are that is entirely different. But we are seeing a lot of endangered species. Breeding research institutes are there for lizards, for frogs, crocodiles, snakes, for everybody. Poultry farms are there. Everything is there. Seed also for seed cultivation. There is a seed quality breeding farms are there. Seed quality assignments are created by a lot of scientists for super research on transgenic as well as hybridization versions. Innumerable things are being done in the society. Then I told that we are lacking. Human beings are interested in producing quality seeds and quality specimens except quality humans. So without this, he is interested in producing all subhuman elements in society. That's what I told HSBC, Human Split Breeding Center. I have opened HSBC, somebody told me, is it a bank? And I told them, it's not a bank. It is Human Split Breeding Center, because if it is human breeding, already it is being done in China and India in a remarkable way. So it is Human Split Breeding Center. What is human split? Simply I want to put. Number one, to live by others, to live with others and to live for others, that is known as biopsychological or bioontological evolution. To live by others, they are known as social burdens. They live by others. That is casually happening. And second thing, to live with others, collective coexistence or planetary peaceful coexistence, that is also there. It is now progressing. And to live for others, that is known as spiritual evolution. To live for the welfare of others, that is very much essential. And primary and secondary, tertiary sources of spirit. What do you call spirit here? Spirit means it is not some invisible force or something else. Here, very contextually I want to brief that spirit is having three actions. The force of spirit that makes you to breathe, that makes you to digest, consume, excrete, all these physical actions are done by the tertiary grade of spirit. Secondary grade, your cognitive as well as mental abilities to think, to analyze, to increase your intelligence, prudence, this scrutiny, analysis, all these various things, these psycho-cognitive abilities, psycho-intelligent abilities are done by the secondary level. And the primary source of spirit is to see that you remove the sufferings of others, you care for others. It is not an emotional empathy, it is also an intelligent relief. It is having the emotion to cry for others and having the intelligence to wipe up the tear. Both these things put together by the spiritual prowess of a person makes a person to be endorsed by primary force of the spirit. So this is what you call spirituality in our system. It is very much essential. And one more interesting thing I want to put here is the role of schools in producing such people. Because schools are not as if we are thinking or we are just seeing them in this society. We used to say in agriculture, we have three portions. In all major planetary, these plant cultivations, we see three portions. The best portion is consumed by humans, the next by animals, and rest for replowing to the soil. Isn't it so? So likewise in school we used to say, in all academic centers, the worst people released from the school, they should be self-sufficient. Next people, they should be efficient. And the best people, they should be munificent leaders of the society. So, the worst products of school, they should be self-sufficient. Now, self-sufficient people are considered to be the best products of the school. Even that is struggling now. So, what we say according to tradition is like in agriculture, we have best for humans and next for animals and rest for the soil to be replowed. In knowledge culture or academic culture, the best goes for social leadership, next goes for social efficiency and empowerment, and rest or the worst goes for self-sufficiency. At least they will be sufficient, they won't struggle. This type of thing can be created only by good teachers. Good teachers only can create good students, that's what I have already told. Then somebody asked me a question in one leadership seminar. Then how great leaders, lot of leaders are coming, how they are coming. In forest you can notice lot of things which you want, but they are accidentally traced there. They are not organizedly cultivated. So if organized cultivation is done, what will be the leadership quotient or the leaders count of the society, you just imagine. Amidst all types of entanglements and pressures, lot of leaders have emerged. And amidst unorganized or accidental traits, we see a lot of leaders. If there is an organized culture of leadership or leaders in the society, you can understand how leaders are emerging in the society because of opportunities, because of their parental and ancestral images, because of luck, because of lobbying, because of the ill fate of their followers. A lot of people are occupying the society as leaders, but organized cultivation of leadership, that which is implanted meticulously and meritoriously, will have a greater leadership quantitatively as well as qualitatively. So real leadership is yet to emerge, and school is constructed only for the purpose of creating a handful of leaders every year. Those who will shine in the society. It is very much essential. And coming to the final point, it is the medulla oblongata of today's lecture, because without which this lecture may not be useful for anybody. It is known as ability development. You see, most of the students, they are having ability crisis in their own area. If you want to teach them or impart them something new, how it is possible for them to understand? If somebody is struggling in their education, or if somebody is not getting good marks, that does not mean that they are poor in studies. They may be poor in studies, but that may not be the only reason. The tradition, or there is a cognitive load management exercise. It is known as cognitive load management exercise. Based on this, they have analyzed about students and their participation as well as presentation in examinations, interviews. They have analyzed. If somebody is failing in a particular examination or a subject, that does not mean that they are idiots or they are stupids. It's not so. The first reason is those people will be gifted with oratory skill or executive skills instead of a writing pattern. If they are taken to a closed auditorium and threatened with an examination paper as a pistol to write everything within 3 hours, they may not be interested or they may not be efficient. So if somebody is not performing, that means that their examination pattern is different. For example, you know that the jackal, in the fable story, the jackal used to lick, and that crane used to have the beak. By penetrating inside the pot, it will just go there and have its consumption. We have seen it in the fable story, how the eating pattern is different in birds and animals. Like that, in reception also, in knowledge receptivity also, if somebody is engaged or attuned to the system inherently to non-writing patterns such as oratory as well as performance, they should not be troubled with writing pattern, because handwriting or writing tendency is one among the provisional skills that is ancillary to one's knowledge acquisition. That is not the essential parameter. So the number one is the examination pattern of the student may be different. Number two, the person is having lack of inculcation ability, learning disability. Somehow he has not been given proper inculcation. He has not taken proper inculcation. See, you know about a fertility test. Likewise, in knowledge pair also, there is a knowledge fertility test between the masters as well as the students. If the master is infertile enough to impart that knowledge, and if the student is having the disability to get it inculcated, or both having the problem, then it may not result in knowledge maturity. You should know that. So, number one, the examination pattern may be wrong. Second thing, the person has not been properly inculcated by the teacher. He has not learned it properly. Fourth thing is lack of his own commitment to learn, and lot of deterrents. Lot of disturbing factors are there, and the person's personal commitment is lacking. So, the person cannot learn naturally. And latest scientific discovery says that all people, by the wrong food habits and food timings, they are blessed with a special disease known as neurodeficient disease. They are flooded with neuroirritators instead of neurolubricators because of wrong fertilization of earth by wrong manuring or over-fertilization. So iodine and magnesium, which are very much essential for knowledge absorption or neural functioning, that is smooth or lubricated neural functioning, it is not there. It is deficient in most of the brains, resulting in irritation in learning. On seeing the book, they get into a bibliophobia, war between the student and teacher, combat between the syllabus and the student. Then how knowledge will prosper? They should be like husband and wife. They should be like beautiful partners and beloved associates. But it is not that. They are totally extreme and against each other because of this repulsion of mind and repulsion created by ambience, and repulsion that is created by brain because of the neuropotential or neurodietetic deficiency. That should be also countered. If a person is not getting good marks, that means that the subject choice is wrong. He may be excelling in some other subject. And the person's methodology of teaching, that is wrong. If a person is having a different pattern, methodology, for example, self-study, group study, visual basic, sound basic, group development, demonstrative, objective type of learning, field subjection and survey. If a person is having field subjection and survey, such a person's classroom study and classroom narration may not be interesting to that person. So teaching patterns and methodology consider different groups. If a person is visual oriented, that visual oriented person should not be brought for some other type of education. If a person is objective responsive, he should not be brought here. So what I should say is, all of us are teaching ethics, world parliament, sustainable development, everything we are going to teach, and we have been teaching the students. Unless that student's educating ability, 4 people, they have spoken with a person, with a listener. Somebody was talking in English, and somebody talked in Telugu, some local language, somebody in Espanol, somebody in Greek. 4 or 5 people, they talked in different languages. The person was not receiving any language. Then I told that I am deaf. Then he simply told that he is deaf. So the learning ability, attention, absorption, assimilation, all these basic skills are very much essential for studying law, management, ethics, spirituality, for studying anything. It is a common tool that is very much essential. So I wish that all of us will create a special system of accelerated learning, appropriated learning and accomplishable learning to the students. We should conduct workshops for their knowledge empowerment. After that, whatever you give, they are capable of understanding more than they will run far away from you, and they will predict what you are going to say in your next seminar. That much of ability we can produce, we can see from the students. That's what I want to say. Without implanting that knowledge receiving ability in the students, whatever we are teaching is nothing but an additional burden, additional curse and additional pain. Because I asked, what is your education and syllabus? Somebody told me, oh, it is a pain. Somebody told me, it is a curse on me. They are interested. Then why you are studying? Then they told that I am interested in the benefit of this education. What is that? Benefit of education is certification. Benefit of certificate is employment. Benefit of employment is remuneration, rewards, then promotion, incentives, perks and other things. The benefit of that is pleasure, joyful life. So I love the benefit of these things. So in spite of my non-acceptability, I have to digest it as a bitter medicine. That's what they told. So it will be one more bitter medicine if we teach anything that is not related to the curriculum. So let us see how far we can include our syllabus as what we call rejoiceable education, realizable education and rewarding education should be there. Let us create first a pattern for these students so that they can enjoy the knowledge that is already provided to them. If that is given, we can expect more student participation who can excel in their studies as well as social commitments. Let us create a hybrid version of students, those who can excel in their studies as well as social commitments by introducing new learning patterns which are immediately acceptable and needed for their academic demands and challenges. Let us congratulate the students for the embrace of such accelerated learning or such expert learning skills which we are going to demonstrate as well as teach them in near future, and hope to see you in further sessions in detail. Narayana.